In this episode, I talk with scam expert and author Nick Stapleton about his essential book, How to Beat Scammers. The book clearly outlines the powerful tells and warning patterns scammers reveal, giving you direct guidance on how to recognize fraud and take action before it's too late. Nick also shares the joy he experienced writing his first book and why he felt compelled to create a guide like this, especially when he realized no one had approached scam prevention this way before. Welcome, Nick.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for appearing on the show.
My pleasure.
Nick, can you tell us a little bit about your book and what you hope your readers will gain from it?
So I kind of couldn't believe that this book didn't exist already. And I'm a supposed scam expert journalist. I spend my life dealing with scams and investigating the world of scams. And for the past 10 years more, I have been working with investigative journalism in the UK on television, initially directing investigative films and doing undercover work for investigative films. And then more recently, in the last 4 years, making a program called Scam Interceptors for the BBC. And all of this has given me this really kind of unique position in that I am very much kind of on the inside of how scams work, and I can see the sort of nuts and bolts of how the industry behind scamming and fraud functions. I thought it's mad to me that no one's ever tried to document all of this and kind of put it all in one place to give people a better chance of being able to understand how the scams that come at them work, how the businesses behind them work, through those two things, basically to give themselves a much better chance of not getting scammed. Because if you're on top of all this information, if you are aware of how the vast majority of scams work, the kind of tactics that scammers use, the way that their businesses function, you would be considerably better protected and considerably more sort of ready to deal with all kinds of different scam attempts. But unfortunately, it is basically one of our most common human experiences now. Someone trying to scam you. If you go and ask 100 people in the street whether or not anyone's ever tried to scam them, I bet you 99 are going to say yes. And that's an insane situation to be in. The book will really help everybody protect themselves from it.
No, absolutely. If a book like this would have existed, I know it would have helped me personally, as I was a victim of fraud 10 years ago. I would have loved to have a book like this. Nick, what is it that made you get into fraud and scam? How did you become an expert?
In a way, I think I got quite lucky because, like I said, I've worked in investigative journalism for a long time. And my specialism within that was secret filming. And that involved a lot of the time doing undercover jobs. So working in dodgy businesses that were trying to defraud people, even though they were dressed up as real businesses. And it sort of ignited a bit of a passion in me for doing that kind of work and for sort of exposing bad practice. And then when I realized how bad the problem of scams in the UK had got, I thought, I've got all this background in this thing. And now suddenly, having spent years kind of looking at these dodgy businesses and looking at the way that they operate, suddenly there's now all these criminals who've turned to this type of crime as well because of the fact that it's the internet basically made it incredibly profitable for them and incredibly easy to get away with. And so I thought there was something that I could do about it and that I was, quite uniquely positioned to be able to do something about because of the work that I'd done before. When I said I got lucky, what I meant was I already worked in a field that was kind of adjacent to scams and fraud at a time when scams and fraud just went crazy. And suddenly it was this unbelievably common crime that every single type of criminal wanted to do. And the work I'd done previously gave me a sort of good grounding in understanding it. So something that probably 15 years ago felt quite niche now is actually this incredibly common thing. Yeah. And so I thought, there's something I can do about this. There's something I can bring to the table. And maybe I can help people deal with this thing that is now, such a common experience for all of us.
Nick, when you were writing How to Beat Scammers, would you say writing it was less challenging because of your experience?
I had a really enjoyable experience writing it. I loved it. And I thought I was going to find it really hard. But then actually, when you write a subject that you know really well, you sort of realize how much you know as you're writing it. And I thought there was going to be lots of extra kind of research that I needed to do. And of course, that there were elements of that. but a lot of it just kind of flowed out of me, and because it was all information that I had in my head. I don't think I realized the quantity of it until I started putting it down on paper. I also wanted to write the book in a really accessible, kind of chatty way to make it super easy for people just to sit down and devour in a few days. Because it's 260 pages long. It's not incredibly long. Yeah, it's written in a very accessible style. So I wanted it to be something that people could just sit down with and just blast through. When that moment comes, when they get that phone call out the blue or a text message with a dodgy link in it or whatever it might be, their brain will just go, oh, no, I remember that thing in that book, and it will stop them from getting scammed. I wanted to make it as easy as possible for people, basically, and it sort of flowed out of me in a way that made it incredibly easy for me as well.
I can really sense that you did have fun writing this book, but in the end game, you have created something that's really going to make an impact to make this world safer.
I get real emotional value out of doing this work, and that's kind of important to me anyway. It gets me out of bed in the morning, the idea that I'm sort of doing something that helps people. To help people, I use this book, so they'll read this book and they'll read about every scam that I know about in the book. There's hundreds of them in there. But then they'll also be able to use the system of tells and apply it to other future scam attempts, even though they might be different to the ones that are in the book. That was kind of my intention and my hope. Making a system for people would give them a chance to spot future attempts, even if they're different to the ones in the book.
Speaking of tells, can you tell us some of the major tells?
Yeah, of course. Most scams, generally speaking, rely on a couple of things. The vast majority of scams that you see nowadays happen online in some respect or another, whether it's on social media or it's a phone call that you're not expecting. That phone call is online as well because scammers inevitably use the internet to phone people. That is the cheapest way to do it and the cheapest way to do it internationally. So, of course, that's what they do. I think the most common obvious tells are anything that comes completely out of the blue. So if you're not expecting a phone call from that company, or you're not expecting a direct message on social media bring you the chance to invest in something, straight away, that out of the blue nature of things, that's a massive giveaway for me because scammers need that. That's how they approach people. It's very rare that scammers have enough information to come at you not cold. So straight away, that's one. I think another really good tell is the impression of urgency. Scammers will try and make you feel that whatever it is they're talking to you about has to be done now. The reason they want you to think it has to be done now is because it takes you outside of what's known as your rational mind. So when you are making a normal financial decision, say, for example, you're paying for something big for your house, like a new dishwasher, you take your time over that decision. You don't see the first dishwasher and immediately go, I have to do this now and spend the money on it instantly. Maybe you do a bit of research. Maybe you have a look. Maybe you go to a showroom. Maybe you see 2 or 3 different dishwashers. That is you using your rational mind. What scammers want you to do is to make financial decisions extremely quickly. They want to take you outside of your rational mind using what I call that impression of urgency. So the idea that what they're saying to you has to be dealt with in the moment and you can't take your time over it. Those are 2 massive tells, I would say, of any scam. So something out the blue and something where there is that apparent need that you have to take action now.
Nick, what if someone out there is thinking of writing a book about something they're passionate about? What is the one piece of advice that you'd give them?
Oh, that's a really good question. I've only written one book, so I can only speak from my very limited experience. But honestly, the thing that helped me the most was basically plotting out a spine. What I did before I'd written the book was I wrote what in my head what all of the chapters and kind of subheadings and things like that were. And then I went through them and I put what I imagined the word count of each section would be. So I sort of laid out before I'd started writing the book exactly how long this section was going to be, exactly how long this section was going to be, and exactly how long this section was going to be. This chapter was going to go here, and this chapter was going to go here. And then I just worked through it chronologically, trying to hit those dream word counts wherever I could. And if I went over, that was fine. If I went under, that was fine. I just tried to hit it. It was because I knew I had a sort of 50 to 60,000 word count in my head as what I had to get, because that was the deal I agreed with the publisher. And it made that way less intimidating. Because suddenly you'd mapped it all out and you were like, oh yeah, I can get 60,000 words, no problem. I just have to do this bit and then this bit and then this bit. It took away the pressure that amount of words puts on people. Because the first day when you sit down to write it and you're looking at a blank piece of paper and you think, oh my goodness, I've got to write 60,000 words, that's quite scary. And that fear is kind of the enemy of creativity, I think. Having a bit of a method where you can just go, it's cool, I got this. Like, here's my sections. This is the words for that one, that one, and that one. Add it all up, 60,000 words. You know, that helped me so much.
I can definitely sense some confidence in writing this book. Did that help?
Definitely. And I think I found it out by sitting down about a week before I started and Googling how to write a self-help book. And I think it was like one of the first things I saw was this page that said that. It was just like, do that, and it'll be way less intimidating. And it completely worked for me. So whoever wrote that, thank you very much.
Do you have any future plans for future books? And what are your current projects that you're working on now or the future?
So yeah, I definitely do. I really liked writing this so much, and I really felt like I found a medium that I want to work in more. Because so look, I've been writing for TV for 10 years. You know, I've been writing scripts for the shows that I'm in on TV and direct and other films I've directed and stuff for a long time. And so I feel like my writing is decent. I've never done anything long form, and I'd never kind of done written journalism for newspapers or anything like that. Obviously, a little scary to then sit down and write a book, but I really enjoyed myself doing it, and I hope that people realize that when they read it, they can feel that I enjoyed it as they read it. My idea for another book is basically a fiction book about scams, because I have obviously this kind of bizarre set of knowledge about how this world operates and how it all works and who works in it and how their lives are and that kind of thing. Some of which you'll read in How to Beat Scammers. But it gave me the idea that I could write a sort of three narrative book, fictional, about the world of scams, where you've got a potential target of a scam, the authorities, and then a scammer, and possibly that scammer's kind of organization, and those sort of three narratives intertwining, basically. So that's my idea. Nobody steal it.
Nick, again, it has been such a joy to have you on the podcast, and I can't thank you enough. Nick, are you on social media?
You can find me. I'm at Staple Nick in most places online. I've got Facebook, Instagram. I'm on TikTok. Most of what I do is on Facebook and Instagram now, to be honest.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you. Tell your friends. It does deal with plenty of scams that are going to affect all of us. So yeah, hope it'll help people.